Imagine a world where everything you thought about England's past is wrong. You grew up hearing about brave Anglo-Saxons arriving after the Romans left, shaping a land from scratch. You learned about Vikings pillaging the coasts, Normans taking castles, and a mostly isolated population in between. But new DNA evidence is turning that story upside down. Ancient genomes from skeletons buried across England reveal a secret history of constant movement, mixing, and migration that no textbook ever told you. The people of medieval England were not static. They were travelers, invaders, settlers, and neighbors, blending over centuries in ways historians never fully realized. The study looked at hundreds of skeletons, some dating back to Roman times, others to the Norman conquest. Scientists didn't just look at bones, they read DNA, the biological diary of every individual. Every twist of the double helix tells a story about where your ancestors came from, and what they found was shocking. England was never isolated. From the Romans to the Normans, people were moving in, moving out, and moving across the land constantly. Some genes show links to continental Europe, some to Scandinavia, some to far-off regions even earlier than we expected. This is a story written in the molecules of people who lived thousands of years ago. Take the Roman period, for instance. Most people imagine Roman Britain as a land where Romans ruled but locals stayed the same. DNA tells a different tale. Many individuals had ancestry from continental Europe, including modern-day France, Germany, and even the Mediterranean. Soldiers, merchants, and settlers weren't just passing through. They were leaving children, families, and genes behind. England was already becoming a melting pot long before the Anglo-Saxons arrived. And then come the Anglo-Saxons. Traditional history tells of a sudden influx, conquering a nearly empty land. But DNA shows a far more complex picture. Some areas were heavily influenced, while others barely changed. It wasn't a single invasion. It was waves of migration, movement, and integration over centuries. People didn't just arrive, they mixed with local populations, creating communities with blended ancestry. Some researchers suggest that the idea of a pure Anglo-Saxon England is almost a myth. Even in the earliest medieval cemeteries, skeletons show a mix of Roman, local British, and continental genes. The Vikings add another layer to this puzzle. They didn't just raid. DNA from coastal burials shows long-term settlement, intermarriage, and cultural blending. Vikings weren't just invaders, they became part of the population, leaving their mark in the genetic code of future generations. And when the Normans arrived in 1066, the story repeated. Instead of replacing everyone, they mixed with existing populations. New genes arrived, but they blended over generations. England's medieval population was a living mosaic, constantly shifting and evolving. What's even stranger is how DNA challenges regional assumptions. Some areas thought to be purely Anglo-Saxon or purely Celtic show incredible diversity. Individuals buried side by side might have come from completely different ancestral backgrounds, yet lived together as neighbors, families, and communities. It's a reminder that identity is fluid, and history is messier than stories or paintings suggest. This evidence also reveals social patterns. Migrants weren't only elite soldiers or nobles. Ordinary farmers, craftsmen, and even children carried DNA from faraway lands. Migration was widespread and affected everyone. Families moved, traded, married, and settled. The population was constantly shifting, a network of people flowing across borders long before modern nations existed. Some researchers suggest that even diseases, diets, and cultural practices spread along these genetic pathways, showing that movement wasn't just about genes, it was about life itself. The revelation changes our understanding of medieval England entirely. It suggests that cultural and genetic identity didn't match neat political narratives. People were more connected than anyone imagined. The genetic evidence shows that England's population was shaped by centuries of interaction with the rest of Europe. It's a story of constant flux, challenge, and adaptation. No one group ever fully dominated. Every wave of newcomers added a piece to the puzzle, making England the diverse place it is today. Some experts warn not to oversimplify. DNA can tell us ancestry, but not culture, language, or loyalty. Someone might have continental genes but speak Old English or follow Anglo-Saxon traditions. Still, the combination of archaeology and DNA is rewriting the textbooks. It forces historians to rethink assumptions about migration, settlement, and identity in early medieval Britain. What we thought was conquest may have been more like integration. What we thought was isolation may have been constant contact. This research also makes you question what history leaves behind. Graves, artifacts, and chronicles tell one story. DNA tells another, quiet, hidden, and stubbornly persistent across centuries. A person buried in a simple cemetery might carry genes from 3 different regions, tracing back hundreds of years. Every genome is a time capsule, revealing patterns of movement invisible to the naked eye. And here's the twist that keeps everyone talking. The invisible migrations weren't random. They followed trade routes, rivers, coasts, and fertile land. Humans moved for survival, opportunity, or family, leaving traces we only now recognize. These patterns suggest that mobility was the norm, not the exception. Medieval England was alive with movement, diversity, and connection, far more than the old stories ever suggested. Imagine walking through a medieval village, children with genes from different parts of Europe playing together, farmers sharing fields with neighbors who trace their ancestry to distant lands, soldiers returning home with foreign partners, communities forming and reforming, blending, adapting. History was not static, it was constantly alive, written not only in chronicles but in the very DNA of the people. The biggest revelation? Identity is complex. DNA shows that ancestry isn't simple. People we thought were native might have distant roots we never expected. People we assumed were outsiders might have deep connections. Medieval England was a web of relationships, cultures, and movements. The past is not a single story. It's a network, constantly evolving. Strength is born in silence, long before the world notices. The migrations of the past shaped the society we live in today, quietly influencing our genes, our towns, and our culture. This discovery teaches a lesson. The past is always more connected than we imagine. Borders, invasions, and labels matter less than the people who moved, mixed, and survived. As scientists continue to sequence more genomes, new surprises await. Every ancient skeleton could reveal hidden migrations, forgotten connections, or unexpected ancestry. The story of England is far from complete. Every new piece of DNA adds depth, mystery, and wonder, showing that medieval populations were dynamic, mobile, and interconnected long before anyone wrote it down. If you want more stories that challenge everything you thought you knew, subscribe to GenealogyX. The next truth is already unfolding.